Good night, everyone. I don't know if this thing is live as yet, so let me know. Any comments? Send a little wave or something so that I know that you're here. So, guys, welcome. Oh, hi, Nicole. I know you joined us last week, so thanks again for joining. So, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Yashi, and you are right now. Oh, hi, Nandi. You're right now on the Mind of Yash blog page, a blog that I would have started about a year and a half ago, and I have recently pivoted to help women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, like myself, try to deal with the symptoms of the condition in a more positive manner, because that's a struggle. If you have it, if you know somebody who has it, that is very much a struggle that we have. But what I'm aiming to do is to have different guests with me every Thursday at 8 p.m. to kind of shed some light on their experience with PCOS, their expertise, how they can help, and different things like that. So, if there's anything that in particular, if you have PCOS, that you would be interested in hearing about, please let me know. Send me a DM, leave us any comments so that I can organize, so that we could all be informed. Because even though I've been dealing with this for all of my adult life, really, there's still things that I'm learning every day about myself, about the condition, about other people, how they are dealing with it. So just let me know what you want to know about. We're also we always open to have questions. So yeah, so let me know. So tonight I have a very special guest with me. Well, I'm hoping she'll be with me. We tried to do a test earlier today on Facebook Live. It's challenging. It's supposed to be easy. So, but you should see my setup that I have here right now. So hopefully everything goes well. I'm using my phone. So the wonderful Pati Garcia. We would have met Pati, my husband and I, about 2.5 years ago. We did childbirth and or Lamaze classes with her, and the experience was something that I didn't expect, and it was so worth it. Hi, good night, Desan. I hope I said that correct. Patty had such a different aura about her, and the way she handled childbirth and just the whole experience that a woman should have going into childbirth was completely different to what I would have seen on TV, or even expected based on doctor's visits, or things that you see. It was very different, and I really appreciated that about her. She had such a love and nice energy about her that you felt calm, and she really prepared you for childbirth in the way that I think women should really be prepared. And also, she's a midwife, and she is the founder of Birthworks TT. She also is an expert in alternative women's health, and that just means that she uses more herbal or traditional methods to help women, and their health. She also has some experience with clients that has polycystic ovarian syndrome. So tonight she's going to share what her experience has been with them, and what she can do in particular to help these ladies. So without further ado, let's bring Patty on. Works, but this is not a fancy show, but she's a little music to get on here. Okay, we go only right to that song. And how much supposed to play. But that's a really beautiful song. Here is a fact. And mine as well. And I think it really symbolizes her and the love that emanates from her. So welcome, Pati. Good night.
Good night. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm having a good day.
Thank you so much for joining me. So we're going to go straight in.
Good night. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm having a good day.
Thank you so much. And hit the episode. Straight in. Without further ado, let's bring Patty on. Are you ready, Patty? Thank you. And hit the episode. Straight in. Okay, guys. Let's bring Patty on. One of the questions I have been asking was what made you so passionate about women's health and using herbal and traditional methods. Let's bring Patty on. One of the questions I have been asking was what made you so passionate about women's health and using herbal and traditional methods. Let's bring Patty on. Can you turn down the volume on your device or the headset?
Headset. Yeah, one moment. Get my headset, okay?
Can you turn down the volume on your device or the headset?
Headset. Yeah, one moment.
Okay, guys, stand by. The headset. I think I can use my headset.
Is this any better?
Yeah. Is everybody hearing? Everyone okay here? Both me and Patty? Let me know in the comments.
I'm leaving and coming back.
Well, I'm here. Oh. I was saying how fine. She's gonna come back, guys. Don't leave. Approve. Hello?
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent.
So
Yes,
yes, I was saying thank you so much for joining me, Patty.
you're welcome. Let me try to
And
get a good background here. There we go.
that's okay. I have curtains, like this whole experience has made me realize, how important it probably is to iron your curtains. I always thought people were crazy to do that, but I think it might be necessary.
Great.
Well, yeah,
All
great.
right.
Everybody's hearing so much better. Whew. All
Yes,
right.
good. Thank goodness.
Crisis averted.
Right?
So, Patty,
Okay, great.
what I wanted to ask first was what made you so passionate about women's health and, in particular, using the more traditional and herbal methods of healing?
Okay, good question. Um, hmm. Well, I think from young, I always realized that women weren't treated so well. I might have been having a single mother and watching how neglected she was and how much she neglected her own health, or she just couldn't keep up with taking care of herself. And people weren't necessarily going out of their way to support her as a single mother.
Right.
And so that was a very real experience, right? And
Yeah.
I was the oldest. And then growing up as a woman, there's just so much negative messaging about our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of the negative messaging, it was also a lot of blame that we're responsible for our bodies, and if we get pregnant out of wedlock, or you know, if we get raped, all of that stuff would be our fault alone, nobody
Right.
else. And so from very early on, I saw all these messages that just did not sit right with me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, um, I would say in my home, we always had teas, an herb, a food, or something that Granny would say, "Hey,
Mm.
oh, you have a tummy ache? Take this. You feeling that? Do that." And it was never like take a pill or let's go to the doctor. It was, handling it at home. So I really loved how my family took care of themselves
Mm-hmm.
naturally. And so
Yeah.
that was from young. And then so as I got older, I learned more concrete ways to do things naturally, right? Like
Yeah.
self healing naturally. And so then it just evolved with going to massage school, and then um, I worked at a women's health clinic, and then I became a midwife.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So, yeah.
it's so funny that is totally a Trini thing too. When you're sick or anything, any ailment, your grandma is like, okay, she's gonna boil this, or she's gonna give you this
Hmm.
bush tea to make you feel better, and it really does help. It really does help. It might sound crazy, but it does help.
Hmm.
And another point that you made in terms of women not taking care of themselves. Now that's something I have tried to learn a lot this year, especially because I was doing a particular course talking about your priorities. And when you list your
Mm.
priorities, sometimes everything comes before your own health. You put your family, your spouse, work, and whatever else time you have or resources, then you go to make sure that your health is okay. So that was a very interesting point that you made as well.
Right. I think that's purely out of the patriarchy, because the moment we put ourselves first, we're called selfish, right? And no one
Yeah.
wants to be called selfish, so we
Mm,
avoid it. And it's just a setup, because we know that if we put ourselves first,
mm.
we can actually do more. Not that
Yes.
we should be doing more, but we
Yeah.
can do it with more peace. And um, as we go into this conversation about PCOS, you know, peace is very important, because peace is
Mm-hmm.
what helps our nervous system relax.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have a method of making our nervous system relax, then we can't heal. We
Yeah.
can't heal efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody really like teaches you that properly. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's more that whole mental health thing is like that's also on the last of the list of priorities sometimes, and you
Yeah.
really have to start from it, and you really can't give from a place of depletion. And so you're very
Right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, we just can't. We'll just get sicker and sicker until we
Yeah.
can't do anything, and then we crash.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
too
I've
too
been there.
harsh.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Right? I'm sure. And then when you become a mother, it's
Yeah.
on a whole nother level, right?
Well, completely, completely. Your priorities completely change at that point in time too.
Yes,
Now I
yes.
know you mentioned that it led you to the path of midwifery, but what
Hmm.
in particular made you decide to do that?
Um, Basically, I studied something called craniosacral therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's how our cranium is shaped, right? And
Okay.
how the different plates of bones fuse together and all of that. And so we have this belief that it's all solid and it doesn't move anymore after it fuses together once we grow out of infancy.
Mm-hmm.
So when I learned about this very subtle therapy, I also had studied something called women's sacred anatomy, and it had to do with the pelvic floor tension, trauma, scar tissue, um, the anatomy and physiology of our pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, we hold a lot in that area without
Yeah.
even understanding or knowing. And it starts also from young. It starts from when we change baby diapers. the first messages we get is, ooh, who has a stinky butt? Who's got a stinky butt? Right? And
Yeah.
there's other things that people say that a baby can notice right away, like, oh, I'm getting negative message. And they begin
Okay.
to tense their bottom.
Yeah.
And then we learn about, farting, and we don't want to poop at somebody else's house. And
Yeah.
so we begin to develop a tension in our anus,
No?
right? Because
Yeah.
we're so afraid of that area because it's disgusting. And
Yeah.
so, especially as women, later on, when we get our periods, we learn, oh, don't let one drop of blood come out and hit that panty through your
Yeah.
pants and onto anything, because the blood is the most disgusting thing in the world.
Mm.
So we hold tension, right? Because we want to
Yeah.
keep that in because we're so ashamed.
Yeah.
So you're talking about all these ways that our pelvis just keeps getting tense and tense. And then it's about sex, right?
Mm.
When women start to have sex, let's say with men and penises and all this starts happening,
Right.
we have to make sure that we're tight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what does it mean when you're not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's so many ways that we develop so much tension in our pelvis before we get to the chance of getting pregnant and giving birth,
Right.
that so you can just imagine a very tight pelvis, and then you have to birth a head through it, right?
Yeah.
And this is your baby's introduction to the world, right? And
Yeah.
so how much tension does that baby have to go through? And how much emotion are they pushing through, right, as they come into the world? And so I just, I think all these things all the way through.
Mm.
And so when I realized that women don't have enough support in hospitals um, around birth, and also that birth is highly medicalized and the normal physiological process isn't really at the forefront when it comes to a hospital birth,
Right.
it really kind of tweaks the experience for the mother and then for the baby. And so I always think about the impact of the trauma on the baby's head on its way out, its introduction, right? And I
Yeah.
basically one day I just put it together and I thought, wow, our initial trauma is when we come out.
Wow.
And depending how we come out, depending the environment, the vibe of everybody there, how supported the mother feels, all of that is like your imprint onto the planet. So if you have a woman stressed out, she's been insulted because she's 19 years old, not married, and having her baby, and the doctors are shaming her, her family shaming her, that's not going to make for like a real smooth birth.
Yeah.
It's not the best welcome for the baby.
Yes.
So I thought, wow, I wanted to make a big impact on the world. Like I always felt deep in my spirit that I was here to make a big impact on the masses, right?
Yes.
And I thought, how do I do that? And when I made the connection that the way we birth into the planet is really like what sets our spirits and how we move through the world, I was like, oh my gosh, my goal is to make that process as peaceful as possible.
Yeah.
I'm shaking because I'm so I think
Passionate
this is
about it.
yes, I think it's
No,
my life purpose.
it's no, I really think it is your life's purpose as well, Patty, because I never, like, every time I talk to you, it's just like you blow my mind. Because, like, when we first met you 2.5 years ago, just you explaining that and how childbirth should really be, I never heard that it explained like that before. And what you just explained there right now is even more mind blowing because you're so correct. How you come into the world makes such a difference. You know what I mean? Like it's really crazy that we don't learn that type of thing or or teach anybody that. There's nowhere that you can really go, well, except to you. If you
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I made the point to go to schools that thought very differently. I went to a shiatsu school, so I basically learned medicine from a traditional Chinese perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And as I learned Chinese medicine, I realized, wait a second, these are similar beliefs that I grew up with.
Right.
And it was all about like your body being hot or cold or catching, a breeze or a wind or feeling damp and all these concepts, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
how in Trinidad you avoid the dew, right? That's a
Yes.
real thing.
Yeah. It came
If
from
it hits,
something.
yeah, if it hits the wrong person, it
Mm-hmm.
could really affect them. So a lot of the Chinese medicine perspective, the Eastern mentality of how to view the body, is very similar to indigenous medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And my family is from South America, Peru, and my father's Mexican, and so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the home understanding of your body came through that for me. And so when I studied Chinese medicine, it made, unfortunately, I had to learn that to understand that what my family was trying to teach me was
Was
actually
good.
true,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Trinidad, I noticed, has a lot of beliefs that I know now a lot of people want to
Uh,
discount them, and that's an old people thing, or you know, but it comes from a very logical way to look at the body, and also, we were our own first doctors. Midwives were the doctors before there was even the concept of doctors,
yeah.
and so, anyways, I can go on and on about that, but
My
uh,
mom would love to hear you say this to me because okay, I'll be honest, we kind of make fun of her sometimes because she does say some of these things like they do, and those type of things, and we kind of, make fun of her. So I
mhm.
will probably take it a little more seriously in
Maybe just
future.
a little bit. I mean, some things are outdated, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that these are ways that our families, our ancestors have survived because back then there wasn't necessarily electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't worry about certain things, or you worry about certain things because, let's say, you don't actually get hot water coming out of the pipe like
Right.
a century ago, right? And so
Yeah.
you would have to avoid bathing after birth, because after birth your pores are open, energetically you're very open, and when you are postpartum you want heat and warmth to keep you healthy,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
if you expose yourself to the cold, um, postpartum, what will happen is most likely you're going to have really bad cramps, uterine
Yeah.
cramps, joint pain, and the last thing you need after giving birth is more pain.
No.
So these were ways to keep us safe and healthy and help us through the postpartum, the first 40 days. Those
Yeah.
first 40 days are crucial,
Yeah.
crucial to recovering. And now we're the modern day woman, like we just want, a week later,
Just
can
to
this,
snap back.
yeah, I need to snap back. I want to go back to work. I want to
Hmm.
go do things, and
Yeah.
we don't honor our bodies the way we used to, because
Mm.
we're in an industrialized society now, right?
Yeah.
Everything's like do do
Go,
do,
go, go. Yeah.
make, go
Yeah.
go earn money,
Yeah.
earn money,
Yeah. You can't earn money if you're not taking care of yourself, right? If you don't
right?
have, yeah, something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, some things, we can modify. Obviously, we have nice warm water coming out of the pipe now, so you can bathe right away after. But there was a nugget of like real intelligence in that
Yeah.
old medicine, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so let's just get into a little bit more about polycystic ovarian syndrome and your
Yeah.
experience with clients. So is this
Okay.
something that you find very common with the clients that come to you?
Yes. I
Yeah.
would say, I would say before I came to Trinidad, my PCOS clients were very limited to mostly African American women,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a handful of Latino women,
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, how they call it here. Um, and so I came across it in that context. But when I came to Trinidad,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has PCOS.
Oh
If
gosh.
they don't have PCOS, they have fibroids. And
Mm-hmm.
if they don't have fibroids, they have endometriosis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's rampant.
Yeah, that's
It
kind of
it's
crazy.
very, very common here.
Yeah, I think last week we had Mr. Francis Morin. He's also a
Hmm.
herbalist, and he did say he would probably join me again in future to talk about our history and ancestry and why he believes that it's so prevalent here as well.
Yes, I have
Yeah,
the same beliefs, I'm sure of it.
yeah. So we have to get him back to really talk about
Yes,
it. Yeah.
of course.
So what has been your experience really? What type with in particular? Because I know it's like a range of symptoms. Because I have some of these symptoms, but not like
Hmm.
everything. So what
Hmm.
do you normally see people come with?
Yes, I would say the number one symptom that I encounter is just the irregular periods,
Mm-hmm.
where it's coming either too often or too far apart every other month.
Yeah.
If there's the and the biggest clue is that there's no pattern to the bleeding.
Yeah.
So that a person might go 2, 3 months without bleeding, then bleed for 2 weeks straight,
Yeah.
then not bleed again for a month and a half, 2 months, maybe bleed for a month. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's just really chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's the number one. The number two is, oh, well, along with the cycle, just having it be so painful,
Yeah.
painful, clotty. Um, so there's that. And, you know, depending on the severity, then you'll have the ones where they'll have facial hair or hair in areas they don't want to have hair.
Yeah.
Um, and but everyone works that out in different ways. So sometimes I
Yeah.
could tell and sometimes I can't see it, right?
Right.
um, but the next reason people come to me is because they have PCOS and they want to get pregnant, but they're having a, and that's
Right.
kind of I feel like that one is, like, honestly, almost every baby I've ever delivered in Trinidad, the mother had some history of PCOS, whether
Yeah.
minor or more advanced. But they might have been on metformin, or maybe they took metformin for 2 months and then they got pregnant and they never took it again. Like, such a variety of treatments and experiences with that. But
Mm-hmm.
I've had clients who come to me who never thought they would get pregnant, never planned for it, and then they said, PCOS was my birth control because I've never gotten pregnant and I've never
Yeah.
used protection, and they've had us, they've been sexually active for 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
right? So this idea that you can't get pregnant with PCOS, I think it's a
Yeah. It's a
false
myth.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
and but that's not to discount that there are women who are having a hard time getting pregnant and they have PCOS.
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot more going on besides the PCOS.
Okay.
And
Oh,
ultimately, my belief about the title of PCOS is just a title, but not
yeah.
an actual condition.
Yeah. They're actually having talks about changing the name to just something more to show that it's a more metabolic,
Mm-hmm.
hormonal issue than the polycystic. Because even as you're saying, like you hear polycystic and you think every woman would actually have cysts on their ovaries, and that's not always the case as well. So they
Right.
do have, well, they talk about changing the name. So I don't know if
Yeah.
how they are gonna go about doing that, but yes.
Well, I mean, at least to speak about, I mean, I think the word syndrome can really just, it synthesizes that it is a set of
No, yeah,
symptoms,
yeah.
right? But yeah, um, hmm,
So
it's
what do
such
you
a hot
usually like?
topic.
It is. So what do you usually recommend or do with these clients that come to you with irregular periods and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so my experience so far has been basically addressing a symptom, right? So either we're working on the cycle or we're working on um, reducing the cysts if
Mm-hmm.
they know they have the cysts, right?
Right.
And sometimes I basically do two things with folks. We do vaginal steams,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I do something called, uh, whoa. how did it leave my mind?
The womb massage.
Yes, but with castor oil packs, which
Okay.
is old school method of healing. Like Jesus was doing this back in the day, right? Uh, so the combination is actually really strong, and so I like doing them both. But with the steam, there's two aspects of it that I think help. One
Mhm.
is a physiological aspect, so the steam itself
Mhm.
goes up through the mucous membranes of the vagina,
Mhm.
the vulva, the vagina. It does enter through the rectum,
Mhm.
um, and that actually helps blood circulate. Right, it breaks up
Okay.
stagnation, blood stagnation, and when many times when we're talking about PCOS, that's part of it. Is that there's just not enough of a flow
Mhm.
happening in the body. And
Right.
so that'll break up stagnation and make all the fluids looser, right? And so that, in essence, can help drain cysts. All right. And then on a spiritual level, what we do with the steam is you actually have to write out your intentions, your wishes,
Mhm.
your prayers, what it is you
Yeah.
want for your womb. And in that process, you are putting intentions into the herbs that we use. And when you speak into herbs, you're sending a vibration to it, right? And then when you put it in the water, that vibration is in the water, right? And so if you
Yeah.
have steam from that water, those intentions go right into your cells,
Yeah.
right? So I would say that that's physiological, but it's also spiritual. And I think that's really important. We approach healing or going to doctors with on a really mental level, and we
Yeah.
completely are not even in our bodies. We're just like these walking heads. I think and think and think and do with my arms, but like we never really take the time to take a breath, connect all our body parts,
Yes.
and be present in our nervous system. It's just it's we've been cheated out of it by the system.
Yeah. I see. I see a question from
Oh,
Jen.
okay.
She says she has PCOS. Her cycle is
Hmm.
irregular. She has no pains, no acne, no facial hair, just the weights. And she's
Hmm.
asking, well, what should she do and can she still conceive?
Wow. Well, there's just weight gain. Is that all she
Yeah,
says?
it's that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I actually don't know. I take a really detailed intake about people's health history, and so I
Mhm.
would want to know a lot more about anything they've tried before, any kind of medications they've been on, blood work. I'd be interested in knowing how they process sugars, um,
Mhm.
all of that, and also what is excessive weight. I don't necessarily agree with the BMI. I think there's
Mhm.
plenty people who are considered overweight who are actually very healthy, and
Yeah.
so I'd be interested in having a conversation, right? Like, has there been a lot of exercise happening and no weight loss or weight gain? Like there's just such a wide. I'm a holistic practitioner, right? So I
Mm.
look at so many things
Yeah.
beyond the few details that I just received. So, um, yeah, I would recommend coming to see me.
Yes.
But at least having a more thorough, I need more thorough information before making recommendations, right?
And
Um,
even that, so that even you saying that is so refreshing in a sense, because sometimes I hear experiences of women who have PCOS, and either they go to somebody who just says, "Okay, I'm going to put you on birth control and metformin," and when it's time, when it's time to conceive, then we'll put you on something else, or they might just kind of dismiss it in a way
yeah,
like it's not necessarily a problem. I've heard experiences like that.
right.
And so just you saying that, when a client comes to you, you look at everything is
Yeah,
not something that's very common with this,
right.
unfortunately.
I also look at two other things that aren't very maybe two, three other things that aren't very common when you talk about, you know, Western medicine. And that would be, I always ask about people's bowel movements. How
Mm-hmm.
often are you able to pass stool?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't able to pass stool every single day. And when you're not able to pass stool, that means it stays in
Yeah.
your lower abdomen.
Yeah.
And where is your uterus?
Mm.
Where are your ovaries? So
Mm.
I that's always something I need to know in order to make a suggestion, because in essence, I had a practitioner tell me today that your reproductive system sits in a cesspool.
Mm. That's one way of putting it.
It's very literal.
Very.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at an anatomy photo, the colon wraps around the uterus, and then you have the small intestines hanging out right behind the uterus. So if you're not eliminating, and you're not, and mind you, most people
Mm.
won't do enemas or anything like that their entire lives.
Yeah.
One thing I do think is really interesting and healthy about Trinidad is I heard about the clean out that they give children, things to clean out worms, or the
Mm-hmm.
senna is readily
Senna,
available.
yeah, Senna.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's really actually brilliant. That is brilliant and so
Yes.
accessible. That is really good medicine to get you going. Because if you don't, what ends up happening is fecal matter begins to permeate those walls of the colon. And where's it going to go? Into your system,
Yeah.
right up to your uterus and all your, your reproductive organs. So
Yeah.
when a doctor isn't taking that into consideration, and then going back to this person who was talking about being overweight,
Mm-hmm.
think about, where are you overweight? Is it in your belly? Do you have a big belly?
Mm.
Um, have you not been able to poop? And are you having little pencil poops, or pooping every 2 to 3 days, or maybe you poop once a week?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people think they're fat and they try to lose weight by exercise, but many times what's fat is that you have a whole colon full of old fecal matter, and then you drink plenty water, and the water in your system will go straight to your belly to try to detoxify, to try to fight all that fecal matter,
Yeah.
right? So if you're not able to eliminate, all the water in your system goes to your belly to try to make you not go toxic and septic, right?
Right.
So a lot of the times people are big in the front, and it's not because they're fat, it's they're full of water and poop, right?
I'm
And
sorry to
so
laugh.
it's just, I just don't think that um, it's just not necessarily common knowledge for some reason. And there's nothing wrong with getting an
Mm-hmm.
enema bag and putting warm water through, or going to get colon hydrotherapy. I have
Mm-hmm.
to give a shout out
But
to Vibrant Health in Samoa. Vibrant Health has an excellent colon hydrotherapist. She is amazing, and they have all ways to handle that. And I think it's affordable for the impact it has.
yeah. Yeah.
I went today, and I got it done.
Oh.
And when I was done,
Mm-hmm.
um, I hadn't realized that the way I was seeing was a little bit kind of fuzzy, or almost hazy. And when I
Right.
was done, everything was crisp and clear. So there's so many ways that fecal matter backs up in our system and can affect us. And I'm pretty sure it affects us with PCOS or
Mm-hmm.
fibroids or all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
uh,
another thing to consider.
yeah, because we started off in the conversation, that's not something people are very comfortable talking about, but it's just so simple. It's like waste.
Hmm.
You have to get rid of your waste. You do that for any other type of waste you have. So it's very important that you try to eliminate that. And I remember
Yes.
having to do an enema before birth and after birth. And it wasn't as terrible as I thought it would have been. It was,
Well,
kind of.
Yeah, the what they do here is actually they call it an enema, but here it's just they actually just wash out the rectum,
Oh,
right? Just the rectum because they don't want like the stool that's right there ready to go.
yeah,
They don't
yeah,
want that to get in the way because if it's really hard, it actually can prevent the baby from coming down.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good way to, clean it out. It's also a matter of, being everyone's so cacophobic
Mm-hmm.
that like they don't want to see anything, right? And the truth is, in natural childbirth, you're gonna see it sometimes, and it's just a
Yeah.
tiny bit. But
Mm,
it also has another purpose, which is if you don't have any waste in there, the baby
mm,
has an easier way out, right?
yeah.
But an actual colon hydrotherapy or a full-on enema goes
Mm-hmm.
into your ascending colon. No, actually, it goes the other way, right? It goes into your descending colon, across your transverse colon, and it really will wash out the ascending colon. So
And how
it's
does
a
it feel?
it feels warm
Yeah,
and
well.
and freeing. I weighed myself before and after. I lost half a pound.
Yeah, that could happen. That could really happen.
Well, they say for people who really haven't done anything like that, and you eat meat and bread and things like that, that
Yeah.
we tend to carry around about an extra 8 to 10 pounds in our colon.
Gosh,
So if you
that's
want a
crazy.
quick weight loss, go get this done,
But,
right?
yeah. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so well, I know we talked about, and you said that you've dealt with a lot of PCOS clients who did
Mhm.
have babies, but what we see more in like in research and that sort of thing, they say that PCOS women have a higher risk of miscarrying in the first trimester.
Mhm.
Um, is which is something I would have been afraid of as well.
Yeah.
Is there any specific tips you would give, like in the first trimester, for a woman with PCOS to kind of mitigate that risk?
Hmm. Well, how to mitigate the risk of miscarriage? Hmm. I don't know that
Like,
there's anything specific to people with PCOS,
yeah,
but here's what I'm going to say about miscarriage in the first 13 weeks is that
yeah,
what we don't realize is that it's actually very common.
yeah,
About 50% of first time pregnancies do end in miscarriage, and it is not indicative that there is anything wrong with that person. What
right,
it actually is that our bodies naturally reject pregnancy, um, especially the first one, because our
okay,
bodies have something called body memory. And we are used to having our periods, right? And
mm-hmm.
so there's a physiological tendency at at the 1 month mark, at the 2 month mark, whenever our cycles are,
Yeah,
to let go,
okay,
right?
yeah,
Like our hormonal levels are you so used to this. Let's say we've been having our periods for 20 years before we try to get pregnant. The first pregnancy might be like, oh, whoops, it's just going to slip out because the body's like, oh, I'm not familiar with this process,
yeah,
right? And so that's important to understand, first of all, is that,
yeah,
and to normalize it because there's so much shame about miscarriage.
yeah,
And there shouldn't be any because it's actually very normal, right?
mm-hmm.
At least for the
Yeah,
first one. When you start getting a
yeah,
second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, then we're talking about hormonal imbalance, and it's a clinical issue, right? But that
yeah,
first one, I definitely. Sometimes it's a progesterone issue where the progesterone levels are too low, and so you need to supplement, um,
mm-hmm.
things like that. So I am not as familiar with medication that is prescribed because the type of clinical training I have is for low risk pregnancies, right? And so
Right,
I don't have prescriptive rights
yeah,
as with my education, right? So that's where my knowledge ends as far as real medicalized things. The thing I would do is I always suggest red raspberry leaf tea because that is known to adapt to whatever your uterus needs at that time,
Mm-hmm. Red
right? And
raspberry
so
leaf
it,
tea.
yeah, it tonifies. It also it provides iron, right? And so
Yeah.
that's my go-to herb for all things gynecological at any stage in pregnancy or reproductive life.
Okay. And just
Yeah.
to kind of touch on the point where you said that, miscarriages and the why women are made to feel ashamed of that type of thing. And that's something that, yes, that people should not be feeling ashamed for that sort of thing. And even for PCOS in particular,
Hmm.
I find that people kind of make it seem that it's your fault in a way. And nobody really knows what is the real cause of it. I mean, we could talk about the ancestry, or we could talk about our genetic and environmental factors, but
Hmm.
people with PCOS tend to also kind of feel ashamed about the condition and the fact that you don't always feel as feminine as you would like. And that's kind of something that I really wanted to change, because yes, it's
Yes.
something. Yes, you might have to go to the salon and get waxed a little more often than others, but it's just something you have to deal with, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. You should just try to manage it, and look at it in a little more positively. It's hard, but you
Right.
shouldn't be ashamed of it. You
Yeah,
should just embrace it and try to deal.
the shame is just another way to keep us down. Um, what I, what I'm gonna say is very different. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I heard some audio. Okay.
Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
okay. So this is what I believe about gender and sex. And basically, I don't believe that we have opposite sex, right? Because biologically, we are all women at first, and then depending on the levels of hormones, then our genitals get created and our reproductive systems get created into a binary. But there's many people who don't fit in that binary, meaning not everybody's 100% female and not everybody's 100% male. And that all varies between people in so many different ways. And so it's not always an illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can
Okay.
just be a way of existing in the world. And in our indigenous societies, there's always been space for third gender, fourth gender, other people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong with them. In fact, in many societies, these are the people that are considered the medicine people. With that
Okay.
being said, and that being really radical to say out loud, um, I wanted to express that um, it just because women have facial hair, it does not make them less feminine.
Hmm.
Period. If
Yeah.
this is where we're falling into and feeling bad about ourselves, that's not our problem because that's how we are naturally, and it's not always a sign of illness. And there's also nothing wrong with having hair in other places. We're all human beings and we all have hair in very similar places, no matter if you're a male or female. And so I think that a part of the illness and the sickness of the society is how strictly we have to conform to what is feminine and what is masculine. And that really makes us sick. Like how much men is so sick in this society, killing their wives, ex-wives, then killing themselves. Like, you think that that's just because they're crazy? That's because they can't exist as a full human being when they're men. Men can't exist as full human beings because they're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to be sensitive. They're not allowed to be gentle. And so then you're making a whole type of human being only exist halfway. That is
Yeah.
mad making. And then they're telling us as women we have to be feminine this very exact way. And if you're not, you're all these negative things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-uh. That makes you sick.
Yeah.
I think that that is very limiting and unrealistic. Um, we should be able to express how we are and be comfortable with it no matter what. Um, that being said, I know that that's very radical ways of thinking, but that's my background is I used to teach anatomy and physiology, and when I teach anatomy and physiology and you put those anatomies side to side, they're exactly the same, just different levels of hormones, so different levels of testosterone, different levels of estrogen, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you get the different anatomy, right? Like penis
Right.
or vulva. Sorry, don't get me into these gender reveal parties, okay? Never been invited to one. I probably never will, so that's good. I'm hanging out with the right people. But so I always bring those things up when we start talking about what is femininity. I'm on the side of thinking to just completely destroy those ways of thinking because I don't think it serves anyone. It doesn't serve anyone to put the baby in pink, put the baby in blue. Like, excuse me? That is completely irrelevant to raising a happy child. So those are my opinions, but
Yeah.
I don't know that it answered any question. But I think I just want to defend. I want to defend people in their bodies and create an environment, a society that accepts people as they are, and not these frivolous things like where is our facial hair, um,
Yeah.
all these things, right? But on that note, the one thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, um, I was actually going to ask you when you talk about ancestry and
Mm-hmm.
PCOS, what are you actually referring to?
Well, he when he mentioned, well, Mr. Francis Warren is
Uh-huh.
the one who kind of brought it up, and he had mentioned that he started off saying that the East Indian, he was asking me about my, because I'm mixed with like East Indian Spanish and as well, and he was
Mm-hmm.
saying something about like East Indian women tend to have more PCOS. No, but I don't have the data of that to know that for sure. But I know he was
Mm-hmm.
kind of alluding to that. So, we were hoping to have
Oh,
another talk, so maybe we could talk about it more and why he thinks it's so prevalent here.
right. So I have this
Mm.
theory because I feel very strongly the indigenous blood in my system pumping
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
since I was born. And I've always felt such a fight with dominant culture and Western ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt my indigenous blood like saying like, wait, this doesn't sound right to me. I don't know that I agree with that. And like a lot of things, the way a society is set up, the 9 to 5 job, like all these ways that we're supposed to be existing and being peaceful with,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Like everything in my and all my cells says, I really don't think this is how society should function. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, I take into consideration the population that's here and how they got here, the majority.
Right.
Can we have a moment of silence? Right? Because the truth is, this country is founded on enslaved Africans being brought here against their will, indentured servants, right? And so when we think about those ancestral traumas, how many
Mm-hmm.
generations back was that? Three? Two, three? Three, four? Five? Not that far,
Yeah.
right? And when we think about our nervous system and how taxed it can be, present day, our nervous systems are taxed, right?
Yeah.
And how does our body respond? It can't regulate itself. Hormones can't regulate, right? When your nervous system is stressed, what do we excrete? We excrete oh my gosh, don't tell me I'm gonna forget this term. Cortisol. Cortisol, that stress hormone. And what does that do? It makes us fat, right? Because we're hormonally imbalanced. And then if we have our hormones imbalanced, then we might have too much testosterone. We're not able to ovulate. So,
Mm-hmm.
the eggs might get stuck and then you might have a cyst and then you might have multiple cysts. So like there's this like deep um, nervous system stress that is coming not just from our present life, but from our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, great great grandmothers, and in the matrilineal lineage, we are always in the womb of our grandmother,
Mm.
and we take on in our lives whatever stress they had,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that this phenomenon is is a very real thing that is absolutely ignored because we want to stay in the present. Oh, now, who cares what happened? Get over slavery, get over
No.
that whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And there's never been a moment where women of color, black women, dark-skinned women of from anywhere, there's never been a moment where someone says, "Take a load off, take a break. Let me take care of everything while you take a nap," right? And so there's never in the last however many generations been a chance for us, and not really me because I'm very light skinned, but ancestors that are dark skinned who are oppressed, there's never been a moment where they get to rest their nervous system in a
Yeah.
way that heals them. And the fastest way to heal is to sleep. Tell me how many mothers are sleeping well.
Okay. I
Hmm?
need some sleep.
And these are the really ugly, ugly truths of why women are sick, and very specifically women of color, dark
Yeah.
skinned women, because they get the brunt of all the abuse because we are not living in a world that celebrates them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem. And if you're studying medicine, if you practice medicine, and this isn't at the forefront of your thoughts when you are looking at a dark skinned woman, then you're not practicing medicine. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell you're doing. So
Yeah.
these
It's
are my very personal beliefs and observations. I'm 40 years old and I've lived mostly in the US. I've traveled a little bit, but yeah, I think I'm onto something
I
because
think you might
I
be.
just, and nobody wants to talk about it and nobody
Yeah,
can.
it's
If you're
mm,
dark skinned and talking about this, then you're just complaining. You're this, you're that, you're angry. You know, women's experiences always get discounted, no matter what color you are,
yeah,
but
but it's
especially if you ain't white and bright like me,
mm, mm.
you know? So
No, but
that's
it's things
very
you need to talk about. It's things it will make you uncomfortable, but it's things that we really need to understand the
real.
why. I think we
Why?
don't spend enough time to understand why people. Well, I'm saying people, not just women, are the way we are. And we do need to have those type of conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard. It's a very hard conversation, but I just feel like this pandemic is the moment. It's the moment because nothing will ever be the same. There's no going back to normal. And if there's any time to speak up about this and set ourselves up so we can just begin to shift the entire society, it's now. It's
Yeah,
now. Now or
I agree.
never. Now
Yeah,
or never.
yeah, I agree,
So,
Patty.
yeah, this is what I love about the work I do because basically I have women come here and take a nap. Moms,
Oh, well,
postpartum, I give
come
them,
tomorrow.
yeah, right? I give them a whole massage. They could fall asleep. They do the steam. They take a 20-minute nap during the steam. Like there, here is where my work is to have everybody's nervous system, parasympathetic system just drop down. Just
Yeah.
take a moment. Let that sleep heal you. And
Mm,
I live by that. It works. It works in birth.
mm-hmm.
If you can get a person to breathe and let go during labor, it's a shorter labor. To
Yeah.
so there's so many ways that interacting with our nervous system is what can help us heal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I endorse that. I
Yes,
love,
stamp of approval.
yeah, you get the ashes seal of
Yeah.
approval.
Thank
Okay.
you.
But let me ask you, well,
Hmm.
stemming away from PCOS and talking about, your background and that sort of thing, what made you choose Trinidad and Tobago? What is it that you really love about here for Trinidad and Tobago? I would like to know.
Oh God, such a long story. Let me try to figure out the shortest version. No, just
How long
kidding.
have you been here? How long have you been here? No,
I've been here 4 years.
4 years. Mm,
Yeah, 4 years. And when I initially got here, I was on a 1 year contract, and I just kept renewing it. And then somewhere in the beginning, I thought, it takes about 7 years to make a shift in a, let's say, a paradigm shift in a little society. And I thought, well, let me see what I can do if I'm here for 7 years.
mm-hmm.
And so I'm fourth year in, and well, look, you got me on this show. I think I'm doing a podcast tomorrow that's going to be aired in a week. Um, there's people really reaching out, like
Mm-hmm.
share with us, right?
Yes.
So I feel like I'm here to do what I gotta do, and as long as Trinities want me, I'm staying. you know. So my attraction to Trinidad has a lot to do with number one, as a child, I had to spend a lot of time showing showing Americans where South America was so that I could explain that my mother was from Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent a lot of time showing the South American map. And if you look at the South American map, you cannot miss Trinidad and Tobago unless you're blind. So, I always noticed it right there, hanging around
Yeah, I'm just
Venezuela.
telling you.
You know. So, mental note, there's a little island there. Cool.
Yeah.
And then eventually what happened? I started meeting because I'm first generation in the US, we tend to cling to each other as far as being first generation. So a lot of my friends were like Vietnamese, Korean, South American, Central American, Mexican, all the Caribbean islands. Maybe not all, but many.
Yeah.
Well, definitely lots of Cubans and Puerto Ricans, and so of course I had my handful of Trini friends, and all of them had
We're
such a good
everywhere.
vibe. Yes.
We're
And all my
everywhere.
Trinity friends were just the best vibe. And so when I had the opportunity to come to Trinidad, I said, well, yes, I have no doubts that that
That's not
place
very
will be good.
22. Well, yes.
Yeah, well, I've been here long enough. And I love it. So, and I love how people speak English here because I identify more with the English here than in the US. In the US, I
Mm-hmm.
felt very always judged about how my English gonna come out because
Mm-hmm.
I speak Spanish first. I learned English when I was about 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always that like assimilation to American culture and American language, and like almost like I never got it. Like maybe I got whitewashed enough in secondary school and university, but
Right.
like there was never this like, I belong. I speak perfect American English, or. So when I got here and I was like, oh, people talk like however they want. I could talk here forever.
Whatever you want. Fa- Fallon says, Fallon says Patty is an honorary Trini, and I
Thank
agree.
you, thank you,
Sometimes I
thank
think
you,
you,
thank you.
like I told you before, I feel like you're more Trini than me sometimes. Like it just.
Well, yeah, it's easy to enjoy and to just, enjoy myself very much because I do have a American passport. So I
Mm.
very much have that privilege of if things get too rough here, I could get on a plane and go home, right?
Mm.
So I love Trinidad, but that's my reality. Like I know plenty Trinidadians who are like, no, the first ticket out of here, I'm out and I'm never coming back. But I could
Mm.
understand that. Like, if I were stuck on this island since I was a child, I don't know that I'd be that excited?
Mm. Yeah.
So it's always important to take that into consideration. But yeah, I love Trinidad because I'm coming from a very privileged background. So,
Mm.
and that's that
No.
US passport. My mother got pregnant in Peru and told my father, you need to fly me to the US because I am not having this child in no third world country. And
Oh.
that's how I was born in the US. My mom
Mm-hmm.
hooked it up. Hello. So this is how I choose to use my privilege is why not stay in Trinidad? Why not? They
Yeah.
got they got
Why
electricity and running water most of the
not?
time.
Most of the time.
Yeah, so it's easy for me. But I like the music, I like the culture, um, I like the idiosyncrasies of it. Of course it has its how do you call it? I don't know. The things that are real difficult, like customer
Mm.
service, technology, some of it's very behind. We're in the 90s here. I really liked the 90s, so it's just like a replay. So, yeah, that's, I mean, I love Trinidad. I really like the multiculturalism.
Mm-hmm.
Really like
Yeah.
that. I like that it's a majority black and dark skinned country. Like that's a whole other level of existence, and people who they're running their own country, you know? It's very different. It feels
No.
powerful. Feels very
Yeah.
powerful. And I think it just comes from being in the US, growing up in the US and watching how racist it is and how
Yeah.
structurally racist. So like no matter how hard you work, what grades you get, sometimes you're just not going to get through because people don't want you to get through because they're
Mm.
racist. And that is horrible. That
Mm-mm.
is horrible to witness over and over again. And I don't know, it happens here too, but not at the same level.
Yeah.
Not at the same level. So
Mm.
these are just my
Right. Well, honor
observations.
you honorary Trini. But so before we end off, just let us know. So how do people contact you? Where can we find you on social media, Miss
Sure.
Pati Garcia?
Yes. And I met Destra one time and I was like, Destra, I have the same last name as you. She's like, oh, you're my cousin. I was like, wow. So it was very light and funny. I don't know. It was just a
Yeah.
moment of meeting a Trini star. But okay, how to reach out to me?
Yeah, yeah. How
I
do people
am
contact you?
Yeah, I'm on IG as Birthworks TT, BIRTHWORKSTT. And then I have a Facebook page, Birthworks TT. And so, yeah, just through there, message me through there. My numbers are on there, my cell phone number, and you can WhatsApp me. I love to do WhatsApp statuses. Oh my gosh. I think I get more business through WhatsApp status than anything. So there's that. But also, if you want to connect on my American side, the American, I don't know when I started saying that. I think it's from being here, but it's the United States because America is the entire, hello, this whole side of the world. So, anyways, um, except the Caribbean, right? America's and the Caribbean. But anyway, what am I trying to say? Oh, so
Where to find you?
I have a Facebook called Chula Dula Midwifery. And so that's CHULA. That means beautiful in Spanish. And doula, DOULA. I used to be a doula. And then midwifery, because now I'm a midwife. So Chula Dula Midwifery, that's my Facebook business page. And yeah, before I came to Trinidad, I did a lot of work in the States. So I have about 5,000 followers there. I wish I had
Oh wow.
5,000 Trini followers. That would be the
No.
best. But so I post a lot there, also more of my political beliefs and everything around maternal health in the US. And also I teach a lot of classes online
Mm-hmm.
um, now, now that we're in the COVID
Yeah.
era.
COVID.
And so I actually announce more of that through Chula Dula Midwifery. But yeah, so
No, that's
everyone's welcome. Give me a call.
oh, I see Sarojini says that you're a great midwife. So
Sarojini, the doula. Definitely, we've been through many births together. Yeah.
oh.
Hi. Cool. I can't see what anybody posts.
I've seen the
So,
comments,
okay,
but you
good.
see them after for sure, I believe.
Oh,
So
cool.
thank
Hi,
you
Sarojini.
so
Thank
much,
you.
Patty, for joining
You're
me
welcome.
and
My
for
pleasure.
sharing your thoughts, your expertise, everything. I'm very grateful for you. And I do think that you're doing so great and you will be helping so many other women, other people. And so I just want to encourage you to just continue to be you with your energy.
Thank you. I know I'm a little crazy and a little outspoken, but I can't help myself. I'm 40.
You're
I just, what
yeah,
are you gonna,
I hear that. I hear that. Like when you're 40, it's just like, nah, well,
what you
yeah. So, and
gonna do?
I'm getting there. So it's a few years.
You'll be
So.
there soon. Yeah, cool. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. I really appreciate that you trust me and that, you made time for me and promoted me. That's like, it means a lot to me. So I'm
Oh,
very grateful.
of
Thank you.
course.
Cool.
So guys, so Patty shared how to contact her. So be sure to follow all her pages. Contact her if you need to, get any of her services. She's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
thank you guys, and everybody have a great night.
Have a good
Take care.
night.
Bye.
Bye.